What is going on, everybody? Bobby Fi here. Rody is trying to join Mobley from his laptop. We're going to hopefully make that work, but right now we can't get the volume for him. So until we get him back, maybe once he pops back in, it'll work. But shout out to K9. Yeah, big winners today. Hopefully we can get it. It's been a slog this NFL season, not this year, as I always mention. I can't complain about the NFL because I won $1 million this year, but I didn't win it this season. Let's see, we're trying to get Rody in now and still can't hear him. So, all right. I'm going to start off by talking about sort of my approach. There's a lot of weather out there today. I just want to point out, start off with that. Green Bay and the Giants, that feels like it could be a big Green Bay defense spot. Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, unfortunately, with some a little bit of ugly weather, 15 to 20 mile an hour winds, some gusts into the 30s and 35s, and that's a game we want to attack. So that's a little bit frustrating. Tampa Bay, Buffalo, similar thing. I really like this game, but it's just hard for me to do it with this weather. And then Baltimore, Cleveland, which is a game that I'm not especially high on, but it is a game that we have to worry about the weather. And it's just that time of year. That's we know the drill. We know what happens in the NFL and all that stuff. But all of the games have, even the games that without those four weathers, like Jimmy kind of astutely pointed out, there are four. But even the other games have like gusts into the 20s. So you just might see a little bit of wonkiness today. I have a feeling a defense puts up like 25 or 30 points today. That's something. Ross coming right out with a question. Thoughts on Purdy? I think Purdy is completely reasonable. Let me see where I'm at with him right now. I actually think I'd like to get a little bit more. So I'm good with the Purdy idea. It's not like I get super excited, but they throw the ball. I like Pearsall. I'm good with that whole game, actually. You got the indoors, don't have to worry about anything. So, yeah, I'm in on Purdy. I'm going to rebuild in a minute and see where my exact ownerships lie. But, again, they're going to change a little bit. We still haven't had the final reports. We're still waiting on some updated projections. Without Keon Coleman, I do think that, a bump to Josh Palmer in that game. But the problem is throwing downfield is going to be tough. Obviously, they already don't have Kincaid, so Knox and Shakir are very interesting. Anyway, with all that said, all right, I'm gonna share my screen and start it off. But remember, this is going to be this is not going to be my final stuff. My final exposures, I will update in the Discord when the time comes, so you know what not to do. No, I'm just kidding. All right, let's start off here. Again, remember, QB is the only position. Some of them guys are in the flex in other spots, so they're not the exact exposures you're going to see. I might even lower this number because I don't know that I need to play every single lineup with the chalkiest quarterback. However, I really do like Purdy in this spot. I think there's ways to get different with the stack. You can play Jalen Naylor, who's had a little bit of a vibe with McCarthy lately. No one's playing Hawkinson. So there's different ways to stack him. So I kind of like that part of the equation. I'm not really in love with this Mahomes stack personally, but with no Surtain on the defense, it's more viable. Getting to a little more Penix than I want. The afternoon guys I'm not as worried about because the late swap, I'm going to take care of that. The Flacco, I really wanted to play Flacco and Rodgers more than I am, but I just think with the weather, I kind of have to stay a little bit away from it. So you can see I'm pretty heavily over on that. I do think Caleb is a little bit more in play, and I actually just want to make sure I just get to a couple percentage points. I don't need a ton of them. I just give me a little bit. Vikings are tough to run the ball, have given up some big receiver games. So that's the way that I'm looking at that one. All right, let's see what we got. So again, these are my QB exposures right now. I think I might lower my JJ McCarthy exposure just a little bit because I have 406 lineups. He's 119 of them. Feels like I could do a little less. Feels like I could do less Penix. Feels like I could do a little less Stafford. I don't. It's not like a great matchup for Stafford, but man, it's hard to ignore what he's been doing. The guy has been dying. Look, Drake May, yes. Drake May, I love. Great story for the Patriots. They haven't really played the toughest of schedules in history. They haven't really beaten that many real teams. But I don't understand anybody who's watched football that thinks Drake May is somehow ahead of Matt Stafford for MVP. I think Matt Stafford should be winning in a landslide as far as QBs go. If you want to make an argument against Stafford, it's Jonathan Taylor. I don't understand why Stafford would be behind basically anybody. The Rams have played a tough schedule. The Rams probably could be under. I mean, look, they should have won that game against Philadelphia. They obviously should have won that game against San Francisco where they fumbled twice at the goal line late and then missed the field goal again. It just feels like there hasn't been anybody I've seen play better than Stafford this season, and I really don't understand the MVP conversation being where it is. I think it's pretty much a landslide, in my opinion, for at the moment Stafford. By the end of the season, we'll be talking Mahomes. Maybe we'll be talking Josh Allen again, but I really don't think it's that close between Stafford and anybody else. I think it goes Stafford, Taylor, May. That would be the way I have it. And then you get to Sam Darnold next. All right, exposure is the same on FanDuel. Any QBs that stick out different? I'll talk a little I'll jump over to FanDuel real quick. Actually, we'll go back and forth by position. But again, remember the position exposure is a little bit different on these things because the flex is not being accounted for. QB is the only position where it's actually what I'm getting, and getting even more McCarthy on FanDuel. He's cheap. We have rushing upside. It just makes a lot of sense in a lot of different ways. But I think this is probably a little bit too frisky. I'll just make sure I'm not going to get 40. I'll end up getting a little bit less of them. But yeah, it's pretty similar for me on FanDuel that it is on DraftKings. I really like Josh Allen. I think in my bigger buy-ins, I just think that, like, again, running the ball, being able to get some stuff through the air, even in a bad weather spot against Tampa Bay, I think is pretty likely. And I also like we always say they had the big win against the KC. I was the one who picked the Dolphins last week, not just to cover, but to win the game. That was my bold take. One of my 2 bold takes, and that one I nailed. I did not get the Isaiah Likely part right for my bold take for DFS, but I think the Bills bounce back in a big way, and we see a big performance from the offense. Even though Tampa Bay is very solid, but I do really, my personal lean is to try and get a little bit more Josh Allen, a little less McCarthy, only because I like McCarthy a lot. I just think I don't need to play this much chalk. It's a lot of chalk. All right. I'll jump over to running backs back on DraftKings, then we'll go over to FanDuel. And again, remember, just some of these guys are going to be in the flex as well, so the exact exposures are not going to be there. Right off the top of my head, the guys who stood out to me that I wanted to be over the field on were Jacobs, Dowdle, Marks, McCaffrey, and Harvey. Nothing revolutionary with any of those. I think RJ Harvey has a lot of upside. I really like this guy's skill set. I know it's a tough matchup against KC.
Bobby, you hear me now?
Oh, there he is. Let's go, Rody.
Okay.
All right. We got Rody here. And I had said we had to get Rody on the show because the last time we did a 2-man show, I won $1 million. So
that is good.
My good luck charm here. So we got to get this going. Rody, what are you finding at QB before we jump over? I'll go back to running back in a minute. But what are you finding at QB today? Is it going to be all the McCaffrey?
What'd you say? Sorry for a second.
All the McCarthy for you?
McCarthy, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. Yeah, I mean, he's projecting pretty good at 5.2, and then I like Brissett too. I was kind of more on the Brissett play at 4.9. I like that game too. And then Brock Purdy on the other side of that game at 5.8. I'm kind of getting these cheap quarterbacks like Caleb Williams 5.9. I kind of like those a lot. Those are kind of my thing. Maybe even Justin Herbert at 6.3, kind of in a sleeper game right there. I'm trying to find some low owned plays. It's kind of spread out actually today a little bit. All these cheap guys mixed in with like Stafford, like you said, and Mahomes and the spend up options. Mm-hmm. I think it's just kind of a weird slate today. I like these cheaper guys a lot more.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense. And then it's just worth noting that there's 2 really low owned quarterbacks in Josh Allen and Lamar that no one's going to play that have obviously the highest upside. And I think it's worth it. Like if you're MMEing to get 4% of Josh Allen or 5% and be over the field, get 2% of Lamar Jackson and be over the field, just in case you get that one day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That 140-point game. All right. Moving over to running back. What are you seeing at running back, Rody? And I'll jump back and forth between FanDuel for K9 and the others who are playing on FanDuel as well.
Running back. Let me move over there quick. Yeah, I think you were mentioning CMC right out of the rip here when he's as quarterback. He's priced up. I think you mentioned Jacobs, kind of what I heard. Jalen Warren's that cheap guy, but very high owned. Chase Brown, same game. I seen some weather report that Brandon dropped in the chat too. High winds in those games. They could be utilizing dump off passes a little bit more in those games too. So maybe like Warren and Chase Brown make a little more sense. I like that.
Ownership is so outrageous
that
it might be like even like 50 or 60%. And tell me something, Rody. Have we ever seen a full slate that Jalen Warren won?
Yeah, I think James Cook's the guy, like a better guy. Like I want to find one of these 10% owned guys. You're right. maybe I don't want the Jalen Warren. I mean, he's cheap, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Rico Dowdle in that game too. He's getting a little good projection. But Allen, that Herbert or the Chargers game, he's 5'9", getting a lot of work. Judkins, God, that guy's burned me a million times. But I mean, these are some low-owned guys we can use. Are you
Absolutely.
getting onto the Aaron Jones in the Minnesota to leverage McCarthy, or Woody Marks in the Houston game with a little bit? You getting some of those guys?
Yeah, so Aaron Jones right now, I'm a little bit below the field. It's hard to know what to do with that guy, but I want to be overweight those positions in general. And actually, you know what? Let me just make sure I am. It may not be below the field. I got a little bit in the flex. So I've got like 10%, 9%. I don't mind getting a little bit more of the Aaron Jones. I think that's actually not a bad idea. I just wanted to make sure. I think that's actually a good way to get different on the McCarthy thing. And I agree. And also it's the Bears. So we can't really, there's not really a bad play. Look, it's a good spot for Jalen Warren. I don't want to underestimate that. I do like Chase Brown a little bit. But I just think that it just feels wrong to play. And again, we're saying 30 whatever % owned. I think in the high buy-in it's going to be like 50% owned. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so the other ones, McCarthy, and again, I'm higher on the RJ Harvey play, and I can also use late swap to take care of some of that, even though it's a tough matchup. I think that look, when they've needed offense, he's been responsible for it, and that was when he was their backup running back. Now he's got the reins. I am a little higher on the RJ Harvey thing than maybe most.
He projects good too, so that's a good play.
Yeah, I bumped his projection up too, closer to where Goldie has it. I think that makes a little bit of sense. And I'm going to wait for Goldie's last run after we get the injury reports out. So before I do my last build, I want to remind everybody how important that is, because sometimes SaberSim will update closer to lock than you think. Especially in basketball, it's important, but it's important for football too.
What are the key ones we're waiting on? Are we waiting on some key ones still yet, Bobby, for injuries?
The key ones, the injuries. I don't know that there's anything specific that we're waiting on. We didn't know. I had no idea that Keon Coleman was going to be a healthy scratch, so that was a weird one.
Yeah.
It's stuff like that we're waiting on really more than anything, or any sort of coach talk. We do have some coach talk for the later game tonight, the big game tonight that not coach talk, owner talk, I guess. AJ Brown promised the owner that he would stay off social media, which is kind of funny because he's been all over the news lately.
Yeah, he has been.
So for good reason. Later on tonight, for the showdown, I'll just say that I am going to be all over the AJ Brown play. I will buy in.
I think I got to too. I like that play. That's going to be a good game. Hopefully tonight. Yeah. Some of the primetime games have kind of underwhelmed lately, so we need a good one.
Horrible games lately.
Yeah, I know lately. Yeah.
Garbage with your Packers, man.
Yeah, that was bad too. And how's the current game going? It was 3-3 last time I looked at it in the second quarter. Did it get any better?
I don't know what it's at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know either.
It's pretty wild. If you look at the Dolphins' schedule, if at 6-6 right now in the third, if they win this, they should win this game. They can get back in the playoff picture. As crazy and as horrible as the season has been, how about that?
Yeah, that's wild.
But they were my call of the year in terms of games. I did have them beating the Bills last week, and they beat the hell out of them. Remember,
that was a great call, Bobby. That was a great call. Yeah.
My game calls have been a lot better than my player calls as of this season for these shows.
Yeah.
All right, we got JMO too last week. JMO had a big week. All right, let's talk about some wide receivers here, because I think there's a lot of ways to go. It feels weird with how little effort we saw from Justin Jefferson, but I don't think we can ignore this spot, and I think we have to. He's my highest owned receiver at the moment. I like Drake London more than the field. Rashee Rice, I'm below the field. I was going to be below the field a little bit. I'm getting a little bit more because no Surtain than I was going to. I have a little more than I planned to. Really like Jordan Addison. And again, remember these numbers, there's a lot of these guys are in the flex as well, so the numbers might be a little wonky. Calvin Austin, I love in this matchup. The problem is the weather, and that's what has me a little nervous about it. And then the afternoon guys are really tricky because we've got JSN, we've got Puka, and it's really hard to differentiate those two to me. I think those are really, really similar plays at the same price or same price range. I think Chase is probably a better play, and because he's going to get a lot of short stuff too. I think he had 19 catches last time he faced the Steelers.
Yeah.
I also love T. Higgins. I'm not sure. I'm curious what I ended up with Higgins ownership wise. So yeah, well above the field, but I really liked T. Higgins. I forced in some extra T. Higgins because I think this is the kind of game where I could see Higgins with 8 to 10 catches. There we go. And Scott from Poker X Factor saying London has been sick and injured. Was the report good this morning? I haven't seen the report, hasn't come in yet, but if Drake London's a go, I'm a go on him. I just think that he gets way too much, target share for us to ignore him. But this is sort of where my ownership lays, and I'm not thrilled about the Greg Dortch chalk, but again, late swap is going to help me with some of this stuff. Michael Wilson is going to be massive chalk, who I loved last week, and Sheets and I loved last week. I think that it's a good play. I just think that probably I'm getting him some in the flex, I would imagine. Let me just double check this. Not that much in the flex, actually. Mostly my reflex is going to be tight end and running back as usual. Josh Palmer, look at this. I got 14% Josh Palmer. I'm not sure that's going to stick, but that's sort of where I'm at. This is just to give you guys where I'm at right now as far as DFS goes. And I'm going to make sure that I don't need to have force in quite as much Metcalf as I initially did. I'm just going to lower that number a little bit, because that weather is just not that exciting. It's just hard to ignore the Cincinnati thing, right? So who are you getting to at wide receiver, Rody?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned quite a few guys. I like a lot of that.
Spread out for me.
We what?
I was saying, yeah, it's pretty spread out. That's why I named so many guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty. Yeah, I was about to just comment that actually it's really spread out. The ownership, even on some of the guys you're naming, you're like that are going to be maybe even chalkier, still only around 13-14% on some of the guys you were naming, which is great. Even like Chase looks like he's probably the most popular, than JSN, which JSN has been doing very well in that offense, just eating targets. So that's hard to ignore. I think that's going to be a good game.
Mm-hmm.
Target, really finding the value guys. You got the Arizona guys. It looks like we got some Buffalo guys now, Palmer, but there's Curtis Samuel there too. So he might get a bump in projection a little bit. I was really into the Bengals game before, and the win does worry me a little bit more with Higgins, but Chase is going to get all those dump offs. I do like, Jamar Chase a little bit more there. And then maybe a couple other guys like, Ladd McConkey's he's steamed up in ownership a little bit, but I like that Herbert stack again. I think like Herbert, even Jordan Love and a couple of these guys have been playing underwhelming are going to try to get it going. They need to get wins. Their offenses have been down. They need to get some offense going again. I kind of like those. I don't know who to go with Jordan Love yet. I want to add a little bit of him in my MME, but I don't think he's going to make any of my single entries or anything. But I do like the Herbert stack, Ladd, Quentin Johnston. He's in right today. We got no issues with him.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I like, as far as right now. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I like that. Also, I mentioned.
I think sneaky game to target.
Which one?
That Jacksonville.
I mentioned that in the playbook last night. I posted that late. Guys, check that out. I did mention that it was kind of a sneaky game. I like that game, and maybe even Green Bay a little bit to get it going today. I do like the Caleb Williams play stack with like Roman Dunze. He's a good price, and I feel like he started strong on the year. He's a guy that kind of needs to get it going again. He had a couple missed touchdowns this season. They like him a lot, so I think that's a good stack too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a good game environment in a dome. We got, some of the bad weather games, you might want to target some of these dome games. We do have a land in the dome as well, right? So there's a couple dome. Arizona in the dome, Rams are in the dome, right? So yeah, those are kind of the games we're talking about, So we're getting away from that wind and stuff. So I like that a lot.
I like that. I like that call, and it's interesting to me that no one's playing the Bears side of this, even though this is a good defense in Minnesota. They've given us monster receiving games. We remember Devontae Smith and AJ Brown having a big game against them in the passing game that one week. So I like that idea of a way to get. It's interesting because all this ownership. It used to be like if one team was going to be as owned as Minnesota is going to be, especially the McCarthy to Jefferson. Yeah. Usually we'd have a run back that makes a lot of sense, and there isn't people really playing the run back on the Chicago side. So I do think that's a good way you can get different is to play the Chicago receivers, Dunze especially. Yeah,
I don't even mind Caleb Williams and Dunze with Jefferson or Jones run back too. I'd have to find a third piece in that offense that I like, but which the Chicago doesn't really give me much. But I mean, DJ Moore's been better, but Loveland and Komet have been kind of so.
It's just hard to know which one, even though.
Yeah, I know, right? One guy this week, the other guy the next. Yeah.
And there's just so many good tight ends, so it's like, why do we want to pick? But then again, we've run into this issue with the Lions for 3 years. And how often do we see one of Montgomery and Gibbs on the winning lineup? Like a ton. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's hard to, I mean, I know it's a different position, but still a similar type of thinking.
Similar thing. Yeah, exactly.
All right, tight end feels like, and again, you can see my flex is going to be Trey McBride. So I have Trey McBride currently as my highest owned player. Kind of hard to I don't know why he wouldn't be. And honestly, I actually have a lower projection on him than Goldie does right now. I think I could probably go higher on the projection, but I don't know that I need more than that much. It is a later game, so I don't know, but again, my highest owned tight end, 30-something% overall, between flex and the tight end spot. TJ Hawkinson is the other way you can get different using McCarthy. I think this might be a little hot on the projection. I'm just double checking here. What are we looking at here? I'm just taking a double.
What did it give you there? What's the projection?
I've got him at, I bumped him up to 8 because I wanted to go a little bit higher than the field had it, but
I got him way low
here. A little bit more than, but I think it's a good way to get a little bit different, right? And I'm hating on it, so I'm open to it. I just think I maybe have a little bit too much. Maybe I'll go with Goldie's exact 7.8 instead of 8. And honestly, these fraction of points might seem like they make a difference. See, they don't make a difference. They make a huge difference, and we're starting to get some. Let's see. No actual news, but the projections are updating, so we'll probably get some.
I did see a production update come in, so.
Yeah, other ones I like. Again, I'll go back to Likely again. I think I've got him in the flex a little bit as well. Yeah, I do. I've got like 10% of Likely. I'm going to keep making this play. It's going to work one of the weeks. I don't know when it's going to start, but I feel good about it being well over the field on that. I like Gadsden. We mentioned the Chargers game. So these are sort of where I'm at. And I do like Kelsey. I'd like to get to a little more than what I have. What are you getting at tight end, Rudy?
Yeah, I mean, I ran a build. I'm getting some of the Gadsden a lot. Obviously Trey McBride's my top guy as well. And some other guys like even a little Kyle Pitts, Travis Kelsey, Kittle, some Cade Otton. I didn't mention enough of that Bucks game. I like a little bit of the Bucks game and Bills.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind, getting some of that. I mean, he's been getting a lot. They have no receiver, so him and Emeka are pretty much the guys there, and they started using him a little bit more, and they can move the ball down the field better. I like that. Mark Andrews in Baltimore a little bit. Don't mind that. Isaiah Lakely, obviously, there as well. He's getting a decent amount of exposure too. I should probably sort right here, though, because I'm having a couple issues. Yeah. The likely over Mark Andrews, but I mean, either of those guys are right about the same, actually, for ownership or exposure.
Mm-hmm.
I did about a 257 lineup build, and I'm seeing them about each 8%. That's just in the tight end spot. Obviously, there might be some flex, but
yeah.
Kelsey, McBride, Andrews are kind of likely are all high in the flex. Looks like a double tight end build, getting a lot of those guys. I think McBride makes a lot of sense today just because, everyone's chasing these younger receivers for Arizona. But, I mean, he's just going to force the ball to McBride, I think, a lot. So
the only reason I want to pay McBride, one, he's expensive, and I think he's going to be crazy popular. But also, you're going to end up with very similar-ish builds because he's so differently priced than all the other tight ends that's just the one thing I'll just throw out as to mention. Like if you're hand building, make sure your Trey McBride lineup has some low-owned stuff in it. And look, you have plenty of things to choose from. But it is going to be because you're going to end up with similar-ish builds if you end up with this tier of its own price, right, Rody?
Yeah, I agree. You really just got to have – I mean, I like some of these cheap tight ends that we mentioned, but you're just going to really have to hit it right because, McBride feels like he's a solid play. But, I mean, he's going to have the same build. You're going to have to find different players in the games, other games to mix them in with.
Yeah. I could be way off on this, but I wanted to throw out, there's something wrong, I feel like, with this projection of the Chargers in Jacksonville. Shouldn't this game be have a 50-52 total? Why is it this low? I know the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean,
there's talent, but we saw these teams play. These are the two wonky teams. We remember the playoff game from 2 years ago where they came back from down 29-0. Playing weird games, and I feel like that's a spot we can really attack.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I think that's where I'm going to go with one of my builds.
Mhm.
I like that game, and I think Gadsden, as we talked, tight end is a good price at 4,600 used too, and Ladd, and then you got a debate on Quentin Johnson. I mean, Allen's there too, but maybe it's just a lot of weapons people got to pick, and they don't want to go there. But the Jags have been underwhelming too in the primetime games lately, so maybe that's factoring in some too. So
Yeah, could be. And I personally I like Jacoby Myers. I think that with his extra weekend at this price, we can play Jacoby Myers here against.
yeah, I was going to mention him when we did receiver actually because I seen him at 4,600. I mean, he's pretty cheap as a run back option, and maybe he gets more involved now that he's got practice with Trevor Lawrence a little bit.
Mhm.
So he's possible that's a projection that should be higher than what it is.
Yep, I think that's very fair. All right. Well, we'll talk some other football stuff, but we'll talk some defenses again. I'm not going to end up with this much of I did cap it. You can see
Titans.
I did cap it at 25 because I'm getting too much of it. It makes sense. I just don't
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
have like 40% Titans. That's been the worst defense in football. Like, if I could get to the money to do it, I would love to play the Packers against Jameis. And that
Yeah,
would be
that would be.
one, but I just don't know if I'll have enough money to be able to do it. In fact, though, I do think that I would like to just make sure I'm at least like with the field. So I'm going to bump this up because I really do think there's a chance that one of these defenses scores like literally 25 or 30 points today with some of the weather in that game, and also like it's Jameis. There's sack opportunities, there's picks, there's wildness. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and I didn't get a lot of the Packers either. I'm only about 2%, so yeah, that's a little light.
I haven't rerun since I changed some of the things on the defenses, just spreading out some of the teams that I wanted just to make sure to have some of. But
Yeah.
and then the Texans on the other side of that game against Tennessee. For what it's worth, I'm going to make a bold play prediction here. I think Tennessee wins that game. I don't know about maybe. I certainly like them to cover. I think they have they're very live to win that game at whatever plus 300 or something. At least less plus 3 something.
Yeah.
So anybody else who stands out for you specifically defensively that you're heavy on outside of the Titans?
Um, not really anything great, like I don't even mind the Browns, the Cardinals, the Giants, even on the other side of that game, cheap. Packers been struggling. Which Packers team are we going to get? Crappy games, weather. Just taking shots at the cheap ones, right? I mean, obviously, even the Bengals at 2,400 against the Steelers, windy game. Rodgers been chucking it up there, throwing picks. So, I kind of want to just be spread out. I was hoping my build would be a little more spread out than it is, so I might have to make a couple adjustments there. But I'd like to get a bunch of those different random guys, like you said. A couple defenses could catch a weather game, a pick six, or something floats and doesn't go to the right guy.
Yeah, I think the Bears are super interesting as a pivot off of that Minnesota stack, which is going to be
Oh,
really
the chalk, yeah, a little chalky,
and the
yeah,
Bears force the most turnovers of any team in football. So
yeah.
not a bad justification. In fact, I don't think it's out of the question you could play the Bears in some sort of game stack in that, you could still stack the Vikings and maybe the Bears get a couple picks and run one in and somehow score a defensive touchdown, get a few sacks. You definitely get sacks.
And then the ball goes right back to Minnesota. Yep, and then that's what you want. Yep.
Yeah, so I think that's an interesting route to go. So, all right, I know
sure.
we kind of fired through it quickly because Sheets is in Japan. I hope Sheets is having a great time. That's awesome that he's out there. I know he was really pumped about his trip. He's already sent me some Otani pictures, stuff out there. He's texted me a few. But I'm going to get into a few hot takes I have today. I already mentioned the Tennessee. I kind of like. You know what? I like them to cover more than I like them to win. Jacksonville Charger game betting the over is the right thing to do. I think there's a chance for an Atlanta revenge stack after losing 30-0 against Carolina that they go off today. These are just different thoughts that I've had that I'm trying to work into my builds. I think the Chiefs are going to win that game pretty handily over Denver, but it makes me nervous because I still believe that Denver at home is really tough. But I think the Chiefs in a must-win kind of spot. I think the Rams are going to beat Seattle by more than 3. I think these are, in my opinion, these have been the two best teams in football. And It's going to be tough, but I've everything I've seen from the Rams. It's really hard for me to see to pick anybody against them. And they're my Rams, I understand, but I'm even I'm biased. I mean, look, have you seen what Stafford's done his last 5 games? He's got 20,
been great. Yeah.
20 touchdowns and no picks.
Been great.
Leads the NFL in touchdowns and yardage and everything, and the fewest interceptions. So it's hard not to love them. So those are some takes, but I think that my bold take is that somewhere in the millionaire maker, you got a Chargers Jacksonville stack. I think that's what takes it down today. I guess that's sort of my
Ooh, that's spicy. I like it. I
think it could happen, right? It's just hard to get the right pieces. I mean, come on, Brody. I thought you'd be all excited about
I am. I like that. I think that's where I'm going to go with one of my buying lineups, and I think I like that a lot. So I'm going to stick with that too. I'm also, you talk the Rams in Seattle. I mean, it's hard to do a game stack in that too. Have you built some game stacks in that one? Like for pricing?
Yeah, I did just by hand a couple things. But the problem is the Rams are playing this 13 personnel, and it's working so well with the 3 tight ends, which means only one of the receivers can be out there. So if Devontae, who's questionable, ends up out, which we won't know till the afternoon, then it's very easy to play Puka with potentially one of the tight ends. It would be Higbee would be the preferred one, I guess. But like any of them, it could be any of them because they threw it to 3 different ones last week. And Scott's asked a question in the chat. I don't like talking when we talk about strategy and stuff. Like I know I mentioned, McBride's my highest owned player right now. Yeah, Jacoby Brissett. There's no need to mention it. The most chalky builds are going to be Brissett to McBride, and they're going to be Jefferson, McCarthy to Jefferson. So it's almost like mentioning that would feel like I'm just being redundant. Those are your cash game options as far as I'm concerned. It's really right. I think those are the 2 chalkiest quarterbacks. I think those are clearly the chalkiest tight end is McBride, and the chalkiest receiver I think is Justin Jefferson, right? Oh, along with Chase and Jefferson.
Chase, yeah. They might try to jam something. Like if you really want a true cash lineup, they'll probably try to jam one of those cheap Arizona guys in, and they could get Puka too in that lineup, so they might like that. And JSN, you can do double cheap actually on those receivers. So yeah, you can get crazy with the cheap running backs we talked about. But I mean, that's going to be completely cheap, chalk, So
yeah, I think
all the chalk is cheap.
And one thing is so Devontae Adams last week, and this is why I thought it's the play I came on to the latest, and I think it was such a great play that almost paid off in a massive way. Oops. But the thing is, so he was about to break the wide receiver touchdown record, and they were literally trying to hobble and get him back on the field when had the game sort of in hand to try and get him another touchdown, and he just couldn't go. So I'm a little worried about him today. And if he's out, I think you want to make sure you have the money reserved to have a chance to, because if he's out, Puka is very clearly number 1. With him in, it's hard to debate. It's hard to know between Puka and JSN, right? They're pretty close, I think.
Yeah, I think they're stacked right on top of each other. Exactly. Yep. Currently, I'd see JSN the higher projection for what it's worth, but barely,
Yeah. But wait, but what happens if Devontae's out, right?
Yeah, it could flip. I think it flips. Yeah.
Yep. So you want to have something for that. So any hot takes, Rody, or do you want to just take us out of here? We haven't gotten any. Let's see. Hold on. Let me just take a quick look. Marcus Mariota headed to the medical tent. Johnston officially active. That's good. All right. Anything else that's standing out? Calvin Ridley is active, which leads me to my Tennessee pick again, which feels so weird to say out loud.
Yeah.
Brian Thomas officially out, and Matthew Golden officially in.
Okay.
Anything
I don't
else?
really have any hot. You've had enough hot takes for all of us combined here.
I know. I've got too many hot takes.
Yeah, you even mentioned some smaller ones in there. People had to catch, watching the video, So
hopefully they did.
Yeah, hopefully they did. So well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I like that Herbert. I like that Herbert hot take you had today, guys. I'm gonna stack him up today. I think that would have been my guy today too. So, if that's everything we got no more questions. We good?
I think we're good. Take us out.
Awesome. Well.